What's up, everybody? It's Alex and RJ here from Backyard Sprouts, and if you're interested in joining the urban farming movement, you're gonna have to start somewhere. So today we're gonna be discussing how we got into our planning phase and our infrastructure for our buildings. Hey everyone, I'm Alex.
And I'm RJ, and we're from Backyard Sprouts. And in today's video, what we'll be discussing is how Alex and I pretty much started planning since day one to how we wanted to plan our infrastructure, and then how and what we wanted to plan on both sites. And what we mean by both sites is my site, which is my house and my backyard, and then Alex's site with her house and her backyard. What's going on, guys? So Alex and I, since day one, we wanted to set up initial meetings and start actually get this process going. We got the idea, hey, we want to start doing some urban farming. What will it take to do that? So we started setting up some initial meetings, and you came over to my place the first time, and then the next consecutive meetings, we started meeting at like coffee shops and just starting to change the atmosphere a little bit. We kind of just started to talk about what we wanted to do with the company, right? And where we wanted to go with it. We knew we had to do a lot of the paperwork, such as logos, domains, registering it with the Secretary of State.
We had to discuss what type of company you wanted to set up, whether it's going to be a corporation or an LLC or a sole proprietorship or a partnership. We did a lot of research into the different pros and cons of those and kind of settled on what we decided. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of discussion that needs to go in with your partner early on when you're setting something like this up. And part of the reason you might be wondering why we decided to do that so early is because we had some discussions and found out that if we want to sell our goods at farmers markets, we actually have to have insurance. So it's a lot smoother to buy insurance through the company than it is, personally as a single individual.
With that, we started going into how we would utilize both our sites. Yeah. So we had Alex's house and then we had my house. And then we started talking about how we would best come up with the best crops that we could grow. And then we started going to did we go to Home Depot or Lowe's? We went to Home Depot?
Yeah, I think it was Home Depot.
Went to Home Depot, and then what's funny was we went to Home Depot not really wanting to buy anything. We just kind of wanted to look at what they had, and then we ended up walking out with a whole bunch of crap. All right, so during this planning phase, obviously Alex and I were reaching at different resources and where we turn to, who we turn to for information, and the one book, our Bible during this, is our awesome Curtis Stone from The Urban Farmer. All right, so yeah, there you go. highly recommended book. Okay. After Alex and I both read this, we felt like we could tackle the whole urban garden or urban farming business right off the bat. Obviously, it's not that easy, but he made it feel like that from start to finish. He goes through all of his logistics, what he was planning. He goes all the way into number crunching and how he prices stuff, and how it was just such a good book.
Yeah, he discusses what I really liked is how he got into urban farming and how he was oh, I'm not sure if I'm capable of doing this, or can I really support myself? And he goes into all of that, how much he was making, all these different summer jobs he was working. So it's really great. And also, those of you who like photos, there's pictures in here. Yep. So that's super helpful. He has lots of beautiful photos of his garden.
Yep.
And he also has a really good YouTube channel as well as a website with information that adds on top of this. So you should definitely check him out because he is just filled with awesome ideas. So this book is super helpful, and we have a link below the video right now. You can go down and click it, and that'll take you right to where you can order this. And you definitely should, because it has been just an absolute game changer for us.
Yeah, if you're thinking about, even in the very beginning, thinking about urban farming, this is the book you really want to get started out with.
So we have a few other books that we've kind of used just recently in terms of giving us some extra information, and I'm just going to show those to you just in case you're like me. I love books, so they're super helpful. So the next one is called The Lean Farm. It's a guide to growing vegetables, and this is actually by Ben Hartman. I'll zoom in on this for you. So this guy actually wrote another book, and this was supposed to go along with it as an add-on, but I kind of just got this because it was just focused on growing vegetables and farming for a more urban setting. So I didn't really need the one for a larger farm because it's just not realistic for us at this point.
Right, absolutely. And I think, what does he go into, Kaizen?
He gets more of a Kaizen, so he definitely takes the lean process of, anyone who's familiar with the Lean Six Sigma or Kaizen modeling, it's basically trying to cut waste, right? So he discusses where they've had a lot of waste in their farm how they're constantly looking at ways to eliminate it, because as a small farmer, you can't really afford to be wasting time on anything that isn't value adding. So we have a link below to this as well. The last book, which is mainly more here for people in the Carolinas, is the Carolina Handbook here for gardeners. And this book is cool because it goes into a lot of detail about local plants and the local weather and the environment. So it kind of discusses, like, depending on what you're trying to grow, what time of year, this is when you should plant it, this is the soil it likes, this is the amount of sunshine it needs and water. So anyone living in a more southern climate, this could be super helpful. So we'll link that book as well. And there's plenty of pictures.
I love pictures.
In this book, yeah. We love pictures.
I love pictures.
Pictures are very visual, so we love all of them. So we'll definitely be linking all these below. And seriously, even if you don't like to read, RJ's not a big reader.
No.
You gotta read it. It's really helpful.
I read it. So Alex and I, during all this planning, we wanted to, we're both visual, right? I need to physically see how people are setting things up and start getting ideas in my head, right? And so we planned to visit this first farm out by Alex. And Alex, why don't you tell us about the experience with that one? Initially, it was good. We were walking around the place and we were filming. We even got pre-approval to film in their land, so they were okay with it. And we were generating ideas. We were inceptioning ideas in our head on what we can do and what they were growing. And so when it came down to actually talking to the farmers, that was a very interesting experience. And I'll let Alex talk about that one.
So I found, we're not going to name them specifically, but I found this place because last year I had actually bought some seeds from them. So they do a lot of like starter seeds for people and then sell them as they've already started to grow for people's gardens. But they also sell to farmers markets in the area. And when we had called ahead and mentioned, what we were doing and what we're interested in, they seemed really open to it. So we went out and checked them out. And once we started sort of talking to the person asking questions, like, how did you get started? Like, what sort of struggles do you have? Do you have any advice for us?
Absolutely.
They were, just not very helpful, very standoffish, not very willing to kind of contribute or help us. He sort of just said, good luck, this is what we're doing. Right. So it's kind of interesting because everyone else we've sort of hit already so far has been super helpful and willing to kind of encourage us and I feel like offer advice. Yeah,
and it's that movement we were talking about, right? The community of urban farming and people that are super excited. Like if anyone reaches out to Alex and I, we'd be like, oh yeah, this is what we read, this is how we're doing it, this is what we would avoid. We would be super excited to help people, but that was not the vibe or the energy that we got out of this farm. We were asking him questions and they were answering it, but it was very one-sided. He wasn't very enthusiastic to really answer us. I think one time he told us to just read a book.
Yeah, he did tell me that. I asked him a question on when I believe I asked them when they started transplanting some of their crops, just out of curiosity because, just FYI, Curtis here lives in Canada. So obviously us being in the Carolinas, it's a totally different time of year when we plant. So I was just curious for someone who's established when they went ahead and did that, and he just told me to go read a book. And so we were polite about it, but definitely was kind of discouraging, right? Like we're brand new to this and we were hoping for some help, and I had previously really liked going to this place, so that was not fun. Yeah. But on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes, this one's all you.
Yeah, I reached out to a couple who owned a place in area of Charlotte called Noda, and they had done this amazing urban farm. So we were looking on their website. They put a ton of infrastructure and it looked beautiful. And I asked them they actually run one of the farmers markets, and I was asking them questions. They've been super helpful, answering all of the questions. Just totally willing to go above and beyond helping us. So that was really, I think, like reassuring for us. Like not everybody here is going to be, get out of our way. Like we're doing this.
Right. And it's interesting to see, night and day between the two farmers and that couple. That couple, they had everything on their website, how they built their beds, to schematics, to the plans. And so they were very helpful, and I knew they were very responsive to Alex when she reached out. So awesome stuff. Just in this community, like we said, we want to promote a healthy community. If there's new people to this, you want to be able to help them, and that's what Alex and I are here for. And hopefully that's what we can provide.
Yeah, I think everyone is trying to do something good and better, just like Curtis, right? Like Curtis puts everything in this book. When RJ was talking about money, his sheets, like how he runs his entire business is in this book.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Excel sheets.
Yeah,
literally,
exactly.
He shows us columns and rows on what he has in there.
And he makes over 6 figures a year running his plot. Now, by him helping us and offering information, not that he knows us specifically, we hope
Curtis.
one day.
Curtis, if you're watching this.
But, you know, he's not inhibiting his production, right?
Absolutely.
Like, he's just helping people in another part of the country that want to do something well. So that's our goal, too.
Yeah.
Honestly, again, if you have questions or comments, like, totally drop them below. We're definitely willing to answer questions as best as we can so
Absolutely, yes. All right, so the next part is planning out our infrastructure, the actual raised garden beds. So interestingly enough about Curtis's is he does in-ground farming, but we chose to do raised garden beds. All right, so the tricky part about why we chose raised garden beds is Alex and I both have dogs, and we wanted to be conscious about how best to maximize our backyards, but at the same time leave room for our dogs. We don't want to just completely overhaul our backyard and then our dogs has nowhere to run.
Yeah, we both have very active dogs who love to play, so obviously eliminating their entire yard space wasn't really ideal for us because we both sort of bought homes with yards so that the dogs would have somewhere to hang out.
My fence is for my dog. It's not for me.
So that was definitely a big key to our planning when we started thinking about where we're going to put these beds. And I know one challenge for both of us was figuring out where the sun hit.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So when I lesson one, RJ learned the hard way.
Yep.
I bought a initial 4-foot by 4-foot raised garden bed. And I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to put it in this spot just because it looks aesthetically nice in my backyard. I wasn't thinking about the sun. I didn't do anything like that. And I planted some garlic and some spinach. All right. And within 2 weeks, I haven't seen any sprouting. I didn't see any growth. And concurrently, I had a friend who planted stuff after me, and he was starting to see growth. And I was like, oh my God, can I just not grow anything? So one day I decided to work from home, and I wanted to track where the sun was. And what's hilarious is the sun stopped short of just where my raised garden bed was at. Something to keep in mind is the sun. I know, you know, it sounds very, hello, you gotta know where the sun hits.
You definitely need to pay attention, and I almost have an opposite problem. I have shaded areas, of course, in my yard, but I also have areas that get, honestly, like 12 hours of sunlight in the summertime, just maximum sun. So for example, things like lettuce or spinach that don't necessarily want like beating down Carolina heat all day, they just don't do well there, where my tomatoes grow really well. Knowing how much sun you get and how long it sits in an area is definitely key to knowing what you're going to plant there. So just be aware of it. You know, you don't need to be out there scientifically measuring like angles, but definitely pay attention to where it's going.
The next couple things we wanted to talk about was ideas that we got from Curtis's book and things that we would eventually need when we start selling in farmers markets, such as washing stations, drying stations, and packaging stations. All right, so all those things are stuff that Curtis covers in his book. You know, the moment he harvests them, he puts them on his washing station and he rinses them all down just to get rid of all the gunk and the dirt and gets them ready to be packaged. And then he transfers that to his drying station. And he's got, I don't want to say state of the art, but he's got some pretty high tech stuff. I watched his recent video. He's got like 2
fans.
2 fans and 2 dryers, and I was like, oh my God. And he's like, let's see how much I can do within 1 hour. And he did like 45 pounds of greens within that time. It was ridiculous. And then he's got his packaging station. So, you know, he's got his bin of greens and produce, and then he just sits there and packages it. So it's something that you and I are actually still in our planning phase about.
Yeah, we haven't quite determined how we're going to lay all that out yet, but we're definitely working on it. We're aware of what we need. Another thing that Curtis has in his actual environment is a giant walk-in refrigerator to store a lot of this stuff so it stays fresh. And he does talk about in his book that he paid about $7,000, I believe, for that, which was at a huge discount apparently. So that's something RJ and I are still trying to work on sourcing. It's definitely a supply chain problem.
What if we just buy a bunch of little coolers?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yes, we will let you know what we end up going with, but it is definitely something that we are actively looking and researching how to best optimize our situation. and see what we end up going with.
We want to be transparent with you guys throughout
Yes.
all of these videos and processes about what we're working on currently and what our struggles. Yeah, like what is a problem. So definitely a giant walk-in refrigerator is a problem.
Yes.
Currently for us.
Yep.
So some of the other stuff we had been discussing was how we're going to shape the beds, right? Because obviously there's all different ways you can lay out a garden bed. I have my first one is very generic. It's 8 feet by 4 feet, right? Raised bed.
Yep.
But RJ got a little creative.
Yeah, at first I wanted to do just straight beds, and I was trying to figure out how to really best optimize my space. And then what I ended up doing was, instead of having 2 beds and like another bed making like a U shape, I just ended up connecting them. But the struggle there for me was when I initially was planning just the normal rectangular beds, I was gonna build them upside down so that when you flipped them over, you just augured the corners, and that allowed you to level the bed, right? I wasn't really thinking about that until I completed the U-shaped bed, and it is heavy. And so that presented a lot of problems because I didn't know how I would level the bed, how I would flip it, and it's just been crazy.
So RJ figured out his problem pretty well. I feel like he tackled it pretty smoothly. I was impressed.
I don't know about smoothly. That's not the word I would use.
Well, I actually have a separate challenge. So my yard, unfortunately, gets a lot of water in it. I have a slight hill, a slope in the back, and I get a lot of standing water in my yard. So I've had numerous landscapers come out and kind of give me quotes on how they could fix it. And hello, here's Kaiser, one of my dogs. As you can see, he's a doe, but he's very sweet, so I said he'd be popping in at some point. So anyways, so trying to figure out what am I going to do with the beds, right? Because you can't have the vegetables constantly getting soaked by rain. You need to give them a chance to dry out. So I decided I was going to have 2 giant raised beds that are up off the ground. And the added benefit of that is, since I did just recently tear my ACL, they are now at height where I don't have to bend over, kneel, or squat to get to them. So especially if any one of you guys are having knee troubles, like permanently, doing the raised beds, it's been fairly cheap. Luckily, my dad's down here helping me recover, so he's been able to help me kind of pick out lumber and put it together. So we definitely have some footage, I think, to show you guys of that. And it's pretty neat because it's going to definitely help me with not being able to squat down or get on the ground and really get into things.
A hurdle that Alex and I both definitely ran into was reaching out to landscapers and seeing if they can do some work on our yards, because there was 2 separate issues we had here. Alex just briefly talked about her water and her irrigation and just being flooded, and mine, I had a whole bunch of trees. I had a whole bunch of cypress trees on the side, and I had these 2 big trees in the back. They were beautiful, and I loved them, and I was sad to see them go. But I needed someone to chop them down and get rid of the actual stump. And I reached out to at least 4. You had recommended some, and I reached out to them. And it was just absolutely tough to get some of these guys out there. Out of the 4 I reached out to, 1 came out to get a quote, and the rest just they would either answer the phone and then hear what I needed done, and then they said they'd get back to me, but they never did. And the reason, I think, if I were to be a little smart about it, the job was just too small for them to take. It wasn't worth their time.
I think for sure you can't be discouraged, right? Like, I had someone come out and quote me over $8,000 on building a retaining wall, which was crazy. You know, I'm like, I don't have $8,000 to put a wall, and I'm trying to build this garden system. So, you know, just don't be discouraged. You just got to keep calling people. We live in an area that's getting really busy. There's a lot of building going on, so they're busy, and quite frankly, our business is just not that important to them, it's felt like. Thank you guys so much for joining us on today's video and learning about how to plan for your urban adventure. If you Sprouts have any questions, post them in the comments below and we will be sure to get to them.
Yeah, and Alex and I are trying to build a community of like minds, so we would absolutely love it if you guys hit that like and subscribe button so you guys get the latest on our urban farming adventure, and we will see you guys next time.